my favorite bird has to be the social weaver. The enormous nest that they create, their survival tactics to inhabit these harsh and unforgiving environments, and as well as their complex social arrangements, is truly remarkable. And the interconnectedness with the ecosystem shows us that we are too. Join me on my next adventure with WildEarth in the African wild on channel 183 DSTV.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Greetings, and a warm welcome to you in the Masai Mara of Kenya. We have elephants grazing in a peaceful manner. You can see 2 young calves. Welcome aboard to your very own safari live from your African wilderness. Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome in the Masai Mara of Kenya. We have a small herd of elephants grazing. My name is Tim, and behind camera we have Big James. A very warm weather, 28 degrees Celsius, about 83 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a little bit hot and warm, but I can see in some other parts of the escarpment it's been raining. This elephant family is slowly enjoying this grass because a little rain came by and made the grass moist, so at least this is a good time to enjoy. You can see most of their bodies are kind of dark because of the rain. So remember, we're coming to you live. For your questions and comments, hashtag WildEarth. For our young viewers, kids question at wildearth.tv. On the YouTube comment section at FC. This family is led by that matriarch, the one to the left. And a little bit earlier when he came here, she was not happy with us, but at least we tried to habituate her. And they began to be peaceful and carried on with their grazing. Elephants love grass, but when there's abundant grass, they'll utilize this. But then sometimes they love eating the bark of trees. They'll peel off barks of the acacia tree, which give them nutrients. Some people regard elephants as big destroyers of trees, second from man. But sometimes I look at them in a positive way, where they help in seed disposal, especially the seeds of acacia, some that go through the elephant stomach. The enzymes within their stomach help take off the coating of those seeds, which really help them germinate as they pass out in their dungs. And sometimes after the rains, we'll see small trees shooting from the elephant dungs, which is very, very important. They act as a keystone species where they've created pathways for different animals, pathways for animals that are walking through the bushes, the water, and so forth. As we watch these elephants slowly grazing with those tiny calves, let's take you over to another safari vehicle.
Here we have got a massive hornbill, a ground hornbill, and as it was walking along with its wings held out, it looked like a sort of enormous and intimidating death turkey. I think that's the best way I could describe it. My name is James Henry. Hello. On camera today we have got BK Bokomoso, the biceps malinga. And of course, it is still a beautiful bird. Well, in the eyes of the beholder. I'm very fond of them, and a lot of work is being done to help them. They are critically endangered because, unfortunately, people use them for various traditional medicines, chop off their heads and that sort of stuff, and it's really a bad thing for the hornbills. And the other thing that people do, of course, is push down and chop down big trees, and these birds need enormous trees to nest in because they need the holes in those big trees. So between elephants and people, they make life very difficult for this ground hornbill. Feel the wind blowing in from the southeast, but I don't think it's going to bring in any weather. It's nice and cool, but it's a very lovely day. And on the subject of birds, one of my favorite birds to start hearing at this time of the year, because it means that the verdant and fertile season of summer is almost here, is the red-chested cuckoo that goes often known in South Africa as the Piet Mevrou. Anyway, he's back. I heard him for the first time today. Now, our plan is to go off towards Thandi the leopardess and her baby. They were still around in their tree with their kill, at about 12 o'clock this afternoon. And so if we're very lucky, they'll still be there. I'm sure there won't be much meat left, but it'll be good fun to go and spend an extended period with them. So that's what we're going to try and do. But often the best laid plans out here don't turn out to fruition. Now, please do talk to us, remember, using the hashtag WildEarth. You can do that using the tweet on Twitter. Otherwise, if you're a youngster, you can send us an email to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Now, there are 3 of these death turkeys walking around. I shouldn't call them death turkeys, I'll get into trouble. There are 3 of these ground hornbills walking around, and they're looking for nice bits of meat that might be scattered about.
Jumbo everyone, and welcome to this side of this live safari. I have 2 fully grown elephants and they're young, quite close to me. It is such a wonderful afternoon, pardon me. Yeah. And yeah, remember to talk to me, hashtag WildEarth. Questions and comments are really welcome. Yes, my name is Isaac Rotich, and on camera I have Bungay. Here we have one big mama elephant, and I think she's got a baby inside her. She's quite big, quite unusual for this size of a female. So I think she's got a young one. Remember that these females or elephants carry their young ones for a very long time, almost 22 months. And looks like they've been in water, so you can see that watermark. Yeah, there's a dark spot. They're darker from the, from belly downwards. That's a youngster, almost 2 years old, living a very happy life. And this time of the year, looks like he's quite happy. There's plenty to eat. There is enough security. Mom is around and auntie is around, so nothing to worry. They can be cheeky sometimes when they actually smell the diesel fumes or pick up your voice or think that you're too close. You'll see them fan their ears, come towards you, pretend, to tell you, who's the boss. Yeah, I'm here, you should be not here. So things like that. But this guy knows what he's really meant to, not bother us, but just feed. In a day, a fully grown elephant can feed quite a lot. Say it can feed up to 1/4 ton of food a day. That is a lot of food. Yeah, that is feeding almost 300 people in a day. That is a lot of food. So it is, a lot of food. Looks like they are eating in sync, as you can see. They have decided. That's really amazing. Love that. That's super cool. Yeah, looks like the one this side is the matriarch, and then the other could be her sister, and the youngster belongs to the sister who's on the other side, because this one here, she's very pregnant. Maybe, she will be dropping the calf later on this year, but I'm not quite sure, but she looks quite big. I hope, it's going to be one good one.
Tunja utudoko. Our elephants are still grazing and walking slowly towards the forest area. This is a nice small herd where you can see two tiny calves by themselves there. They're actually looking so peaceful, quiet, still grazing. So these calves, when at this age, they lack the sufficient coordination of their trunk, and they don't even have the strength to be able to survive on a solid food without their mother's milk. So until when they're about 3.5 to almost 4 years, they'll be independently grazing and feeding freely. But at this very age, they still are dependent on their mother's milk. So something does not really provide milk, but also a source of comfort for the young. So sometimes when they're distressed, you find that they'll run to their mothers to suckle and then carry on with the activity. We have youngsters also within the same herd that also assist in disciplining those small ones. And sometimes when they're playful or they become mischievous, you find that the cousins and the older siblings will be so much of a help to the adult, who will sometimes cage them with some fights and pushing to be disciplined. We have teenage males that are not yet out of this herd, but I'm sure when they're about 11 to 12 years rather, they will be starting to walk out of these herds. Very, very nice. You can see those two pushing each other as they're walking. Seems like the matriarch decided it's time to head to a different grazing area. The calves seems like they're hot. See them flapping their ears. These two seem like the same age. And if they're females, they'll remain in the natal herd forever. And if they're males, by the end of about 11 to 17 years, they'll be out of this herd, where they'll join other bulls, become bachelors, and they'll walk with very big mature bulls who will teach them on the social ethics of life and mating etiquettes. By standing next to mom, she creates shade. This time it's a little bit hot. Or sometimes the entire family will gather and create shade for the young calves. Still going to sit here as we watch these elephants, and I'm going to take you to another safari vehicle.
Well, from the three that I had earlier, I've come across, not very far from the same spot, the rest of, I think, the herd, which is this young guy.
and I think he's been summoned and told that, don't get left too far behind. There is humans, and we don't trust them, so please come. And so he has sort of immediately took the obedience boy, and he's catching up. Remember, elephants do communicate, and they have vocalization that we cannot hear, we cannot understand, but they can fully do that. And definitely, he wasn't called, I didn't hear it, but definitely he does know that he needs to catch up with the rest of the herd. Over there, we have a very big herd of them. I think this is an extended herd of either 2 to 3 families. They're quite a good number of them, maybe around 20, including young ones that we can see. And they're all happy, eating their favorite grass, elephant grass. It's quite hardy and tough, but their digestive system is well adapted to fully utilizing all the nutrients in it. And I think it's an advantage for them because they are the only ones who can eat it, because it is in plenty, especially in an area like this one's, like this area here. Lots of young ones here from about the age of 5 to around 6 months. So it means it's a beautiful big breeding herd. Flying nut jumbo. You want to find out, how good are elephants in hearing? Well, they're almost as good as a dog's hearing. The dog can be slightly, I would say actually, the elephant has a better hearing than a dog. It's so good, it is said that they can hear a human being walking towards them up to around 2 miles. So it is very good, their hearing. They actually use it more than sight, plus smelling. They have a keen sense of smell and a very good sense of hearing, but a very, very poor eyesight. So 2 combinations that compensate for the one that isn't very, very good. Look at those little ones very close to that mummy over there. I don't know if they're twins. It's hard to tell because they're the long grass. Remember, elephants do give birth to twins, but it's very, very rare. It looks like there's something going on there. Not quite sure what it is, but the 2 looks like they're fighting over something on the floor there, on the ground. Yeah, there must be definitely something that they're loving there. Either it's the elephant grass, could be a creeper that has just cropped after the short rains or the localized rains, and so everybody is quite happy to eat it and utilize it. And they know, and probably the matriarch brought them here to fully utilize this creeper that just came in just because the rain, rain on it. Okay, I'm gonna continue on, try and find a cat. That is my aim this afternoon. And while I do that, let's take you to another live safari vehicle.
Good luck with that, Isaac. I really hope that you'll be able to find your cat. We're sitting here with some elephants that are enjoying the puddles and the mud. It's quite warm here at Djuma Game Reserve this afternoon. It's 25 degrees Celsius, 77 degrees Fahrenheit. My name is Trishal, and I've got a Paul on camera with me this wonderful afternoon. Now, this elephant has been playing around in some of the mud. And if we look over onto our right, we'll see one of this elephant's herd members who've already helped himself to some mud. Now scratching on this branch. Because it's sunny, and it's been a few days since we've had such nice sun like this, yes, they will be getting warm quite quickly, so they want to cool down by putting sun on them, by putting mud on themselves. acts as a thick layer to hold in the moisture in those cracks in their skin. It also helps to pull off any parasites, any ticks and things like that they may have. And that's why they rub against the trees. Nebulana, you have a really interesting question that I can't say I've thought about before. You'd like to know if elephants or any other animals get morning sickness when they're pregnant like humans do. I really don't know. In fact, not all humans get it either, and it's not always in the morning. So I don't know. Lots of changes going on in the body when anybody is pregnant, whether it's an animal, whether it's one of us. And whether they have morning sickness, I don't know. You don't often see elephant throw up or leopard or lion or anything like that. Although sometimes, occasionally, I've only seen an elephant's, the product of it throwing up once. And you'll usually do that when they've eaten something that they didn't intend to eat. Say there was a millipede in the tree and they ate that tree. Then they might throw up. Cats will as well if they've eaten something they don't like, or if they've got intestinal worms or something like that. But I don't know if they get morning sickness or any kind of sickness that provokes them to vomit when they're pregnant. That one's moved into the distance, or moving into the distance across our southern boundary. But the rest of the herd is still on Djuma. I think we will go up to the nearby dam and see if there's any having some fun in there.
Well, my elephants, I've sort of changed the angle so I could see them from the front, and definitely I can see them better now. But looks like a herd that I know that could be crooked with a almost touching tusks that I've known for quite a while. I think I've seen her for almost 15, 16 years here in the Mara, and looks like she's in very good health. Yeah, the rest are her offsprings, some of them. Others belong to her sisters who are surrounding her everywhere, behind and forward. We'll get to see that. The African elephant is found in East Africa, Southern Africa, up to some parts of West Africa. It's making a very good comeback. Well, it's slow in making a comeback because the gestation period is very long, and in areas where this population of humans is growing, they are threatened by habitat loss and also poaching. Apart from that, they are doing really, really well, and they are coming back in big numbers. One of the best places to see them is over here in the Masai Mara, where you can see quite many.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to andBeyond in Ngala for this sunset safari. As you can see here, we got what I believe to be, there was a bachelier flying. All I could see was a silhouette, but we're currently at one of our waterholes, the Akara Dam, and we've got a few vultures that were coming down and having a little dust bath or drink, even a little water bath. They're sunning themselves now. And this afternoon, you're going to be with myself, Sean, back from a few months off, and we've got the great OD behind the camera. There we go. Now you can see those vultures. You can see the one on the far left actually lying down very, very flat. Often they'll do this, get a few little bugs that will come in and I'll clean them actually. It's a very intricate process. Birds will come down here generally during the heat of the day, sort of 12, 1, 2 o'clock. Even now it's still fairly hot. They'll come down, have a little bath, a dust bath, get them ants crawling in their feathers, but they're cleaning a bit. And then they'll obviously shake off before they fly away. Now, me and Odie got very excited when we arrived here because there were maybe double this amount of vultures and a hyena. And we were like, ooh, there's something dead at the waterhole. We're actually looking for a lioness that was seen later on this morning walking in this direction. Or maybe she had caught something. The hyena just had a drink. He just had a drink and then he wandered off. But it was very exciting, you know, my first drive back. Thank you all for all the welcome comments. I'm very excited to be back. Beautiful, beautiful day to come back and just see how green everything is. We've had a lot of rain the last couple of days. I know Rowan has been with you saying, you know, we can't off-road, we can't do things like that because of the rain. But I mean, look, even around the waterhole, you can see lots of leaves, lots of foliage. The waterhole itself is very full. Hippos are having a great time. It's really awesome to be back out here and see what's around. There goes one of the vultures. So you can see that's a white-headed vulture. Now he's finished. Gonna go search for some food for the rest of the day. I think we'll do the same thing.
We have come to the place of Tandi's breakfast, yesterday's dinner, today's lunch, and possibly today's dinner. And we've had 2 glimpses of some spots moving in the bushes just behind. And we thought we'd probably wait here for a couple of minutes and just see if they don't go up the tree now and start feeding. We can hear a little bit of shuffling in the bushes behind. But the bush is very thick on the other side there, and we did try to go round, but unfortunately didn't get a view of the 2 leopards. So for those of you who don't know, Tandi, a leopardess who's been a firm favourite for a long time now, approaching her, in fact, I don't know if she hasn't turned 14. If she hasn't turned 14, she's certainly approaching her 14th birthday, and she's got a little cub who is now 8 months old. And he's around here too. Very easily distinguished by the fact that his tongue hangs out. Ah, I can see some spots. You see them there, BK? They're just underneath that bush. It's a classic leopard. Oh, there's a baby. There we go. Spectacular timing. Oh, hello, boy. Stick us your tongue out. Now he's thinking about stalking his mother. There was a huge hyena here when we arrived, but she seems to have moved off. Hello, young fella. I think he's going to go out for a meal. Are you going up? Are you just going to lurk there, thinking about a meal? Is it just too difficult for you to eat that far up? Oh, here we go. Oh, yes. What a clever boy. Thank you. All the way. We can't see you properly there. Come on. Up you go. That's it. I think his mum's put it in a slightly awkward position, although I believe they were both in this tree feeding on it this morning. But you can see it's quite tricky for him to get round. Elisa, I don't like to say for sure. I think it's quite likely that this will be her last cub if she manages to raise him to adulthood. I don't see why she shouldn't. He's past the most vulnerable stage of his life. No, she could have another one. You know, she could have another one. And she tends to come into estrus quite quickly, I think. I'm not mistaken. I mean, I think she came into estrus when Tlalamba was only a year old. You know, so that's in 4 months, say, even if it was 8 months from now, when he was 16 months old. So then she would be 14 and a bit, and she's got a potential lifespan of 18. Well, maybe she's got another one in her. If he doesn't survive for whatever reason, then she will come into estrus again. Remember that there's no menopause for these cats, so they can breed until the day they die. They also breathe until the day they die. Right, he's going to get a hairball, which is going to be very uncomfortable. I'm going to try and get a slightly less stick-befouled picture.
Yes, and the same goes for elephants. There are very few species that don't breed until they die. Well, they haven't moved much. I went up to the dam. The dam wall is just to my north here. And they haven't gone up just yet. But this is our famous cow, one tusk, half an ear cow. They're slowly moving in the right direction. There's really no delight like elephants playing in a dam or playing in a little pan. It's one of the most special things. Now they're starting to move. There's one up on the dam wall. He wants to get up onto the dam wall. He's feeling a bit frustrated. Watching elephants go up and down an incline is also quite an amusing thing. Oh, change the mind. Now when I see this female, she has these two youngsters with her very often, close to her, and I suspect that they're both her offspring. We saw them this morning. They were so lovely to us. And again saw the three of them together. Previously I've seen the three of them put together many times, but one time that sticks out is when she pushed over a tree so that they can feed on the leaves that they couldn't reach. And again for these two youngsters. Well, they seem to be moving in the right direction towards the southern dam, so I'm going to get up on the dam wall and see what view we get.
Maasai ostrich is what we have found a little bit farther from our elephants, and I think this is the same guy who has been hanging around this area for quite a while. He initially had two hens, but they all have left him and looks like he's on a mission. By the way he's walking, looks like he's going to find one of the hens. Usually they call, and their call, if you've never heard a call of an ostrich, it sounds, or it's almost as close as a lion's roar. It goes like this. Mm, 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 mm. It goes something like that. And I think he might use that to call and locate the females. I wish he can do it before he goes really far, but definitely there's something on his mind. The color on the legs and neck tells me that he's still very much in season, and that is the color of love. Remember, in birds, the feathered kind, males come into season, and they get these very colorful plumages that excite the females, and usually females love seeing this. They just come towards them. But something very interesting about the ostrich, I did see this guy, he had 2 hens, but he decided to chase one, so I think he really loved the one. And so he's been hanging around, the lone one. But today he's all alone. I don't know what happened. Maybe he told her to take a walk a little bit.
We moved slightly forward in an attempt to get the sticks away from his face, but these sticks are very tenacious, especially at this time of year, and you will see that they still cover his little face. But that's okay. We're very much enjoying the atmosphere here, much more so than the duiker is. I'm sure you can see that the duiker is not in fact smiling. It's, I think frowning. I wouldn't describe that as an expression of great happiness. No, indeed not. Now, this young leopard is in danger of dropping his meal on the floor, but mercifully his mum is around, and she'll just take it back up there again, I suspect, unless there is a hyena very close by who hears it fall, and then the hyena might try and get in there and grab it. Doesn't look like there's much more than hair left on the carcass. There some goes. He might actually just be cleaning the hair off it before he settles into some of the crispy skin. I don't think it's actually crispy. I don't think that happens unless you roast the duiker. And as far as I'm aware, no leopard has ever roasted a duiker. See him pulling the hair out there. Linda, no, we think that his dad is Morwati, the world's most irritating male leopard. I say that because he was obviously born in an area where there aren't many vehicles, and so we can't get near him. And he's very, very secretive. That's who we think is his father, and certainly that's who everyone in this area thinks is his father, leopard-wise, because that's the territory that he's in right now. It is entirely possible that she, Tandi I mean, went extraterritorial when she was an estrus and mated with Hukumuri, Tingana, Quarantine, any number of other males, well, mainly those 3. It's possible. Nhlangula maybe, up in Buffelshoek, which is north of us, because leopardesses do that. But the fact that then they come back into their territories, and if Mulwati comes across them, he will assume that this is his son. Now, what's tricky about that, and where I find an intellectual trouble with it, is that there is a way that leopards and other animals smell their offspring. They can smell the familiarity. And so if he is Tingana or Hukumuri's youngster, then I don't know, I'm assuming that Thandi must have mated with Mulwati in order for him to believe that this is his youngster, unless the very fact that he's in his territory and Mulwati is settled is sufficient for him to assume that this is his youngster. This is all obviously physiological, it's not intellectual for the leopard. And what is interesting is that for many, many years, everyone said that Tiani, the leopardess, daughter of Salayeshe, was the offspring of the Anderson male. And everybody said she looked just like the Anderson male, and she had all the Anderson male's characteristics. Well, then they did some DNA tests, and it turns out that Tiani is in fact Tingana's daughter. And everyone was gobsmacked with surprise. So, you know, we think he's Mulwati's, but he could be anybody's. And I do think, I know that I'm a really bad person to be saying this, but to attribute his looks to that of an individual male, I think would possibly be a mistake unless you are really, really good at seeing similarities and understand what can and can't be passed on generation to generation.
Well, we're looking at some prickly thorns and then, of course, the very rough skin of a rather large animal that casts a big shadow. There is a bachelor herd of elephants just feeding through the sicklebush thicket. But my name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Sebastian Rombi, and we are here at Prrivate, which is part of Prrivate Game Reserve. So we're just catching up with a couple of bulls that will hopefully go down for a drink. Some of them have already had a drink in all the newly filled pools of water, which is very exciting because we haven't actually been able to do or view any animals around here. It's been so dry. But really, really nice to spend some time in the western section or the southwestern corner of Prrivate. But you can see they're being very quite particular about what they eat. Gone are the days of eating brown old dry branches and dead leaves. It's all tasty green grass. Now, Rovalant, elephants eat a fair amount of food. They need to consume at least 5% of their body weight every single day. And it's quite tough for them, I think, to reach that figure when it's winter and the vegetation is quite sparse. But now that we've had some rain, all the grasses are pushing through, all the leaves are getting all the trees are getting their leaves, that way rather. So it's going to be a bit easier. So for an elephant like this, he's still very young. I reckon he's probably in his late teens, maybe his early 20s. If he's eating about 150 kilograms of vegetation a day, I think that would be sufficient for him. But some of the bigger elephant bulls will eat almost double that in one single day. So they spend a huge amount of time just constantly eating. They don't stand still for too long, unless they're having a siesta, but that's just every now and then. You can see that elephant at some point has actually uprooted a tree. Are you going to pull out a few pieces of roots, perhaps? Just going to snap a few twigs off there. Crunch on that as his trunk searches for the nice green grass that is all popping up underneath the sickle bush. But it's really, really good to see that pop of green. It's been so dry for so long, I almost forgot how quickly the vegetation recovers. And off he goes. just walking very gracefully. He's actually walking to quite a big tree now, a big apple leaf tree. That is casting a bit of shade, so he's quite happy to feed there because the sun is blazing today. You can see how he's got some of the shadow there. I think all the animals will be quite happy that just the trees are getting all their leaves again, because to have the summer heat that we have and no shade would be terrible. So this tree has already had its flowers. Some of you may remember a few weeks ago, maybe even about a month ago now, we would see beautiful purple flowers litter the floor. And other antelope species and helping up as much of the flowers as they can. But the wind slowly starting to die down since yesterday, well, not even in the evening, in the morning, early hours of the morning. The wind picked up quite a bit, so everybody's come out from the drainage lines where they've been sheltering themselves. Feel much happier now. The ellies are happy, the rhinos, the animals, in fact, will be chuffed. Although it's still quite windy. Are you going to go down and have a drink? I hope he does. He looks like he wants to. Maybe he had a mud bath earlier, but that mud has now caked and it has dried. But we will see. We'll just sit here patiently, and hopefully those long gangly legs will head towards the water.
Our elephants have headed to the water, and they've had a bit of a drink. And now they're all looking for a patch of mud. One was just wallowing in front of us. Let's see if this little one will follow. Nope, only following Mum to eat. She's behind that bush. Let me back up just a little bit. There we go. It sounds like a great afternoon out in this kind of weather. A drink at the dam, a snack, mud wallowing, having an all-round good time. There you can see really clearly her one tusk that's missing. The elephants have been having a great time in the low-lying areas because that's where the water's been collecting, and that's where we're having really muddy areas that they can play in. And they truly enjoy playing with each other, with mud, with water. Sometimes you'll see them drop each other, climb on top of each other. And it's really lovely. I'm going to stick around with them, but I'm going to move on to some that are a little further away.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hello to the world. Very warm welcome to Tswalu Kalahari, place of red sands and blue skies, and is true to that today. Nice and warm. It's around about 30 degrees Celsius. I think the real feel is around about 39, but it's fairly warm. This afternoon, about 32 degrees Celsius and about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's coming. Summer she's here. We have come a little bit further east this afternoon, and we have found something under the tree, enjoying the shade. A beautiful pride of lions. Little young one going for a wander. And obviously in the shade, it's a lot cooler under the shade than it would be for an animal out exposed to the sun, to the harsh elements. You can see how those two big lionesses are breathing heavily. That's what we refer to as panting. And that's a very efficient way for a mammal to cool itself down. Basically, the saliva within the mouth and then on the glands, while the animal's breathing in, the saliva cools down, and then when, obviously, a very efficient way of cooling the overall animal down as well. Panting. Rapid breathing. Sure, and they've got big bellies. So they must have had a big breakfast this morning or big dinner last night. Everybody's bellies are full, even the little cubs. Excuse me. And to slowly digest that material, it's a lot better doing it in the shade. Oh, it's a little one getting inquisitive. What is my brother doing? Or my sister? Is there another lion there, Glenn? Taylor, so with the pride of lions, you can have a few males within the pride, and there would be one father, but the mommy is very clever because she wants to ensure the safety of the cubs when they are born. So what she'll do is that she will have many boyfriends, and then when she has the cubs, all those lions, or the male lions, if there's many males within the pride, then all those males think it's their cubs, and they all provide the protection that they need. So it depends. If there's one lion, then it'll be one father, but you can have incidents if there's other daddies in the pride, that there'll be multiple daddies siring these cubs. And then as a group, they'll protect these beautiful little precious gifts, because that's what the males are here to do. The daddies are there to protect, and then mommy providing all the care and the attention that one needs, like these little guys. That's why it's every day you have to appreciate mom and dad to the highest degree. 6 years old. But they are very cute, these little cubs. Busy bodies. We're going to send you off to another location.
This leopard has managed to flick over the carcass and is now feeding on what looks like a more tasty bit. I mean, for a leopard, not for me or you. I'm sure rotting fly and maggot-riddled duiker meat is not your idea of a good meal. Maybe it is. He's still obsessing about the hair, though. That's what he's doing there. He's picking it off. And then he spits it out. It falls to the ground. And somebody will come along here, I don't know, let's say in a month's time, walking down this riverbed and go, oh, there must have been a leopard kill here. Look at all the hair. What a great privilege to be able to spend this time with him. All on our own, nobody else around. Oh, that looks like a nice little bit in there. Bit of joint. If you crush that, there'll be some nice bone marrow inside, boy. Don't break your teeth. Nearly broke my tooth 2 days ago on an olive pit. Yes, you've got a dirty little face. He doesn't care. He is thoroughly satisfied with the meal that his mother has provided for him. He's not complaining that it is not to his liking, or that he'd prefer something else for supper. I definitely wouldn't ask Thandi for something else for supper. I think she'd take a very dim view of it indeed. If you just listen very carefully, you might be able to hear him going. And now the sun is coming out on what can only be described as the most perfect afternoon here in the Western Lowveld.
We are sitting here at Phinda Private Game Reserve with 4 white rhinos. You can see one little white rhino sitting quite low in the grass. And then one who I assume to be the mother to her left. Little calves often when they're quite young tend to eat lots and sleep lots in between their playing, so I think this little calf's probably decided to lay down while his mum and the other 2 companions just feed around him. The one on the far right, I think, you can see it's quite a bit bigger than the mother, and I think this is a bull that's been following this mother and calf around. The mother probably won't let the bull get too close to her and to her calf, because the calf is still pretty young and she probably won't be ready to come into season or to breed again anytime soon. So that male's just kind of trying his luck, but the mother will definitely not let him get too close. And the third of the larger rhino on the far left side, you can see is quite a lot smaller than both of the rhino on the right. Can't quite see. Yeah, and what tends to happen sometimes is when a young rhino's weaned from its mother, but it's not completely fully grown yet, they can feel quite lonely and decide to try and clip onto a mother and calf. Oh, he's also lying down. Sweet. It's quite interesting on such a cool day that these rhino are being so sleepy. Generally, if it's quite nice and cool, they'll be up and moving around, feeding, but... Oh, there you go, little one up. So we'll just sit with these rhino now and see if they move off, see what the little one has to do. Maybe it'll go over to mum and start feeding.
From a different pachyderm to a now bigger, much bigger pachyderm, we have elephants here, and it seems like they're just arriving back from the forest where there's Mara River. I see one of them is cooling herself. An interesting thing, these elephants are approaching a lion, a lone lioness that is hiding next to a termite mound. I'm not sure if there's going to be a standoff. Sometimes teenage elephants will try to chase off lions from their sight. So let's see if they're going to ignore, or maybe they're going to be a little bit mischievous and chase her away. They've seen the lion, so actually walking slowly. See the cattle egrets following. I'm sure there's lots of insects there. I'm sure the lion has to make a move. So the lion is almost surrounded now. Although these elephants are not intimidated by her presence, because the size difference matters. So the lion cannot go after these elephants. They can't. Yes, you have to go because there's a calf there, and the mother is not happy with the lion being too close to them. The size difference also matters, because that lone lioness cannot go after these elephants, despite them having a small calf. There is a big match of a difference when it comes to predation. Although we have other pets in Africa where lions are specialized going after elephants, but here in the Mara we've never seen lions going after elephants. Daniel, thank you so much for your question. For an elephant to survive, they need the protection of their mothers. They need also the experience of the matriarchs, who really are much more aware of these habitats. The lion has walked into the bushes. I'm sure after these elephants have passed or gone to another spot, she will walk out of those bushes there. It's that time of the day when elephants are walking out of the bushes from the swamps, going to the uplands, where they'll take the rest, graze, the cows sleep, and then in the morning they take the journey back. So this is a routine that we always witness here in this part of the Mara. Despite being cloudy, cool, they still have mud on their body, which is also acts as a sunscreen, as a deodorant, and also to keep off biting insects. And it's reckoned that that mud keeps them cool for about 8 times better. I'm going to wait here and see if that lion will come out, or maybe these elephants will walk and try to pursue, or maybe walk to a different area. So I'm going to send you to another location in the African wild.
Well, I have a black-chested snake eagle, one of the true masters of eating snakes, hence its name. Look at that eye. I'm sure it can see me. It can see us where we seated here in this vehicle. Look at that beak. Unbelievable. Yeah. Don't go yet. I'm not done with you. This is a bird that preys on small rodents, mice, small scrub hares, frogs, but mainly snakes. It's got the capability to see far, almost it can see clearly 5 kilometers, but from where it is, it can see a good 1 kilometer. So those small things like mice and snakes walking or, winding in the long grass have got no chance with this kind of binocular eyesight. Remember, this is one of the only few birds of prey that can actually hover over its prey, hoping that it comes out. I have seen where they fly really fast and then all of a sudden they turn around, fly up, and then just hover while looking down, trying to pinpoint exactly where they've lost their prey. In their feet, they have very long talons capable of piercing, those tough skins of the snakes and mice, and actually sometimes killing them, using them. That pointed beak is for cutting meat. And so the combination of the beak, look at it, how pointy it is. It's like a hook that one would kill, a small mouse. Look at those eyes instantly. And they are found here in the Masai Mara quite abundant. They pair for life, but you find them quite alone. This bird is found from sea level up to around 4,000 meters area. So, from sea level to that height, you will find it looks like it's looking at me. Look at those eyes, unbelievable. Yes, and over here, it's hunting from one patch. I don't know what it's looking for, but it is typical for them to patch once they've seen, there's something, hoping that it will come out. And sometimes they're very successful. They'll pick up, something from the same patch even 2 or 3 times. They need to eat every day. They have very high metabolism, very much like other birds, so they almost, need to eat every day. Ian, how many snakes does it catch in a week? Very tricky question. I don't know how to answer you, but it depends maybe on how big they are and how many it gets. So it is very difficult for me to answer you that question. It's a rather tricky, but it needs a good medium-sized snakes, about maybe 2 feet. It needs at least 5 of them in a day to really do well, or even more. It's got a crop, that's a storage spot just below the neck, and usually it fills it up there. So yeah, something like 5, but it truly depends on how big they are. So it's a rather tricky question to answer you, how big they are, and also it's the main how I would answer you. It depends on how big they are. And he's on a Balanites Egyptica tree. This is a tree that produces dates. You can see them on the right there. There's one brown one, and there's a few green ones. I don't know if you can see them. These dates are actually very much, they look like dates, but they are bittersweet. Jackals and elephants love them. So they actually, you can see there's so many of them in that tree. That's why it's called the desert date. Very soon we'll be having jackals and elephants underneath these trees because they love them. Okay, I'm gonna stay here with this beautiful specimen of an eagle. And while I do that, let's see what another safari vehicle has got for you.
So we're still sitting here with these white rhino, and you can still see that bull at the back there's keeping his distance quite well. I was hoping that the little youngster would come and suckle from mum, but he's still not letting mum go too far. Every time mum kind of goes off a little bit, he gets up and follows. There he is, coming into view from behind the bush. But nonetheless, it's still a pretty beautiful scene here on these grassy hills, the dramatic sky. You can see that lots of the green's been popping through, and it makes for a really beautiful
beautiful scene. And it's pretty special sitting with such a tiny little calf too. Yesterday was a pretty warm day, and you can see that the rhinos are all covered in a thick layer of mud, and that was just from a lot of wallowing yesterday. Today they'll probably be moving around, rubbing it off on rubbing posts to get rid of parasites and such. Pam's wanting to know what my favorite animal is. I've got an animal that's quite a common favorite, I think, and that's a leopard. And I think the reason for that is just that here on Phinda, we don't see them there very often. They're pretty difficult to find, so you have to work very, very hard to find them. And when you do find them, it's like super satisfying. So I think that's why I love seeing leopards so much. They're so elusive, they're beautiful, and just really, really interesting animals to spend time with. So I'd guess that's definitely my favorite animal. But on top of that, I love most animals, even these little rhinos. I mean, that little rhino calf is so cute. It looks like a little jelly baby rhino. But yeah, and then in comparison to the mum with that huge barrel tummy, it's pretty awesome. So most animals are pretty awesome, but in terms of my own personal opinion, and I guess also just because of where I operate, leopard for me is a pretty exciting animal to look for and to spend time with. I think we'll probably head off now, try and find something different and leave these rhino to their grazing.
Okay, so we managed to find this herd of elephants. Me and Odie were talking now. Quite a big herd. There's a few more that stand off to the left here, but these are the ones that are nicely in the open. You can actually see the difference. So look at the one on the left of the smaller one. Yeah, that one. Odie's focusing on. Look at the color. It's actually a little bit more red. Obviously, the mud, the sand in this area just has a lot more of a red tinge to it. You can see which ones have been rolling around. Now, from looking at this herd, looks like mainly these littler ones, these younger ones, that little babies in the now. You can see there, those two that Owen's focusing on, they're also both red. So looks like the mother on the right and the little baby, you can just see the top of her head. There she is in the grass. But also got that red tinge from the mud from rolling in one of the waterholes. As I was saying earlier, it's very, very hot here. These elephants have been enjoying the last couple of days when it was overcast, raining. They were having a great time. You saw them walking, feeding, traveling far distance as they can. We're now, you saw most of them gathered under this marula tree, trying to get a bit of shade, a bit of protection from the sun. Obviously, the mud also trying to cool down a bit, trying to protect themselves. It's quite a large herd, as I say. There seems to be a few big ones further back in there. Had one baby standing on top of the fallen over log. Oh, there it is. Let's watch it carefully. You can actually see it's still quite little. Now we're going to see if it uses its trunk with grass in its mouth. So you can see the trunk fiddling there in the grass. Oh, there we go. I mean, I would say that that baby's probably maybe 6-8 months would be my estimate. You know, she can use her trunk, seems to use it quite confidently. And they learn to do that at about 3 months old. So if she learned at 3 months, she's had some time to practice, got a bit better at it. Okay, so we've got our first question from Marianne. And now Marianne wants to know how old a calf has to be before the mother will sort of go back into estrus to mate again. So Marianne, that baby, the mother will sort of suckle it, look after it until it's sort of about 3.5 to 4.5. Generally on the higher scale, 4.5 years old. So the cycles between an elephant having a calf is actually very, very long. You know, gestation's 22 months, Marianne. So that's almost 2 years of gestation, and then they only do it every sort of 4 years for ease of maths. So now, you know, these females are only giving birth every sort of 6-7 years. That's very, very long time, quite a wide gap. And it's not common, but it does happen that an elephant can give birth to twins. You can imagine that is quite an ordeal, quite a process. It's not too common. But we have seen it here on andBeyond and Ngala a number of times, which was really, really cool. But these elephants, yeah, they have the longest gestation, Marianne. See all the little ones feeding up at the top there around that fallen over tree where it's got nice long grass.
Welcome back to Tswalu. Very warm welcome back to this safari vehicle. These lions are still taking it easy, snoozing nicely in the shade, nice and close to water, so they don't have the worry about cooling themselves down with a little drink. And there was another lioness, that one that Glenn is showing us now in frame. That lioness actually snuck in from behind us. Myself and Glenn were busy talking, and suddenly I just saw something behind us, and there's another lioness. So she was wandering off and doing something. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Kyle, and behind camera this afternoon is Glenn. I was so fixated on the lions that our names weren't that important. But it is. So a very warm welcome from both of us. So a very nice and intriguing question was asked there by a very young little earth warrior. Would there be multiple males, obviously being fathers within this pride? Yes. So if there's a coalition, you'll find that within the coalition, when there is a female that is in estrus and she is coming into the stages of having babies, that multiple males, if there is a coalition, so that is a group of males within a pride, multiple males will go out to dinner with her. And so you would have a mix of the genetics within a pride, but that ensures a cohesive bonding with the pride males. And then as well as they jointly will protect and defend these little ones, because then they all think it's theirs. Lions, like some of the species of Phinda, practice something called infanticide. So we don't want that happening. So that's why the mother, or the lady that's approaching that period of having babies, will have multiple daddies, and that just ensures the safety of these little ones. But great question asked by our little viewer there. Well done, and I hope that answers your question. But typical behavior of lions, sleeping majority of the day. Sinek, do the lions prefer to be around water in the Kalahari? Lions focus their time and attention in and around waterholes a lot. It's because that's where prey would come to. So, Sinek, that is a very good question, because you would have behavioral traits varying across the board depending where you are. So lions across Africa are lions. There is no subspecies, but you have slight variations in coat color, behavior, and as well as hunting methods. And so lions over here really focus their time. So they'll stay here for about a day or two. You can see the bellies are very full. They've got a food baby in there. And so from here they'll move off and they will basically make their way to another watering hole, which would take another day or two, and then end up at that watering hole where they could be successful. So that's perfectly suited to these hot environments. Being at a watering hole, hopefully getting a nice snack, and then when you move, you're moving to the next diner, let's say it at that. But really nice question there, Sinek. Very good question. So they do spend a lot of time in and around watering holes. We focus on watering holes when we want to find lions. We first go to the watering holes, we look for tracks, and then from there, we physically start tracking these beautiful, magnificent cats. But now, they are just reserving and conserving energy. We're going to send you to another amazing location, and we'll see you shortly.
Now the young leopard has been replaced by the mother up in the tree. The little one is down below. And unusual for them to share the tree at the same time, but I believe they were both in the tree this morning. They wouldn't both be eating at the same time, though. So I'm whispering very softly because there is a vehicle here. And I don't wish to disturb their banter. So now the poor woman who did all the work gets to have a bit of a meal. Although, as I said yesterday, she definitely ate before she went to fetch the cub and bring him back. I think I'll probably be here until, I don't know, halfway through the night. Probably not in the morning, but who knows? Sure. One of the guests on that other vehicle just looked at us and said, "What time do you go live?" So I mouthed at her that we were in fact live. One of the death turkeys has arrived. Oh, I'm going to get in such trouble for calling them that. One of the ground hornbills that we had earlier has pitched up here, which is quite fun. Possibly smelling the meat, thinking how delicious that must be. Ooh, no. Seen a leopard now, it's running away. A leopard will eat one of those if they can catch them. All right, shall we move back into a closer position, Bokamoso? Just a slightly more stick-free spot. How's that? Alan, that's a really good question, because you'd expect that in an area like this you'd walk around and find teeth and skulls all over. The skull will eventually just disintegrate, and the teeth, I think, probably just get separated, you know, and eventually two will disintegrate, but they'll take a lot longer. But the skull, the bone, actually doesn't last very long. I mean, it lasts, but it doesn't last for that long, especially if it gets wet and if it gets into the sun. And hyenas will eat quite a few of the skulls, and certainly this skull there'll be nothing left of this skull when it's done. and bigger skulls you do find around the place, but they slowly disintegrate and they slowly get eaten away by porcupines and hyenas coming past. I've no doubt that possibly even the odd leopard, if they're really hungry, might come past and have a bite. Lions the same. So eventually they just kind of get separated and disintegrate. But these two will eat most of this duiker's skull. It's small enough for her, certainly, to crush. And the brain, of course, is a leopard delicacy. That's not true.
Sounds like you've come from a pretty interesting sighting there with 2 leopards. We've just come across this herd of buffalo here. They've just been grazing pretty slowly, but slowly making their way in one direction. I assume that they're going to be heading off to a watering hole that we can see in the distance there. But one thing that's quite interesting about the scene is that there's quite a lot of bird life around these buffalo. One of the commonly associated bird species that you get with buffalo are obviously the oxpeckers, which you'll generally see sitting on the backs of the buffaloes, gleaning ticks and such. But what you can also see in some of these dead trees around the buffalo are some glossy starlings. And they won't tend to sit on the buffalo like the oxpeckers do, but they'll rather actually sit up above the buffalo, or maybe on the bushes surrounding the buffalo. And what they are waiting for is for the movement of the buffalo to disturb little insects that'll fly up and they'll then catch out of the air. So the oxpeckers are not the only ones that benefit from a buffalo herd moving through an area. Other bird species that would do this are drongo, and I also actually did see a fiscal shrike somewhere around here, but I can't see them anymore. And even just as we sit there are more and more starlings pulling in, quite similar to like what you'd see with vultures when there's a kill. Vultures, they've got very, very good eyesight and they can see from miles up in the sky, and often what attracts them is not actually that they see the carcass, but they see crows and other scavengers coming in to scavenge. So I assume that's what's happening here. The glossy starlings have noticed that there's some other bird action, and then as a result of that they can locate this buffalo herd and come and join in on all these insects that are being disturbed by this herd. Ian, that's a really interesting question. So Ian's wanting to know which animals go through menopause. And Ian, that is a question that I have not given much thought to. But I would say that generally most wild animals wouldn't go through menopause, but I'll have to double check that for you, because, or the reason I say this is just because most of them, by the time they get to, or they probably wouldn't live that long. So an animal's lifespan, they need to be pretty functional throughout their lifespan. And animals' aims are to reproduce. They survive and they reproduce, and that's their kind of main aim throughout life. And if they are unable to reproduce, then for example, with buffalo, it wouldn't be necessary for them to stick with a herd. They might then be pushed out. So I would say that most animals wouldn't make it to an age where they would go through menopause. But I will have to double check that question to just make extra sure that I'm right. Okay, well that's a very interesting question, and I hope I learn something more from it. But yeah, we'll just sit with these buffalo for a little while longer and see if they head down to that watering hole.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about our profession, is that we learn every single day. It never stops. And for me, that is the most stimulating factor about being a guide, is that your limit is only gauged upon yourself. So it only is as far as you want to go, or as far as you want to drive, and your knowledge to understand, which is lovely. So a lot of wattle starlings at the pan here, making quite a lot of ruckus, keeping the lions turning every now and then, especially the younger ones. But yeah, this is typical behavior of lions. In a 24-hour cycle, 20 odd hours they would be resting like this, 18 to 20 hours a day. And just on the question that was asked earlier about them focusing around the watering holes, the behavioral traits or patterns of lions here at Tswalu are also different. They tend to focus a lot of hunting around nocturnal or nighttime activity. Yeah, I think I've only seen just a glimpse of the end of a lion takedown in winter. But otherwise, these individuals like to hunt towards the midnight period, and especially if we have windy and maybe a bit of stormy weather in summer, that's when they'll definitely seize the opportunity, because then the antelope's senses are hindered, and that's a perfect opportunity for a lion. So focusing around watering holes, and then also being a lot more active on the early hours of the morning. It's just too hot for them to operate. And Glenn, when we came in here, it's the first time he smelled lion poo. What? Oh, there it is. Oh my gosh. The lions went to the toilet. They go randomly wherever they go, wherever they feel like they want to go. And one of these lions went to the toilet close to the water's edge. Scenic, do the lions here on Tswalu have names? No, we don't delve into that. Yeah, it's just the way we operate here on Tswalu. We rather just let them be. I know naming is a really nice thing for people to get involved, and you can keep track really nicely. But the only name or terminologies that we give them is just for the prides themselves, so North and South Pride. And then we'll use terminology like the 4 males, or the coalition, or the sub-adults, just so that we can keep tabs and understand how lions are moving in and around Tswalu. But no naming of the lions, as well as any other animals on Tswalu. It's just a preference. That's why we do it. It's a preference. But this is a young male, 3-4 years old. You're a little bit older, 4. Oh, big belly. Oh, lazy. This is what we call flat cats. You can see how rapid her breathing is, that female in front of that young male. Tummies are so full that it's obviously putting a lot of pressure on a lot of organs.
Well, I have the tall one once again, and here it's a big male enjoying an afternoon feed. This is an animal, remember, that feeds constantly, spends a very little time, sleeping. Most of its time is taken feeding, and here is just that scene, the real African scene where all the giraffes are out in the plains. Here it is. These are Maasai giraffe, and a collective noun for them is called a journey of giraffe. Here I have a good number. They're spread out all over, quite a lot of them, and they're enjoying the late afternoon coolness because the temperatures are dropping, just browsing around that bush. There is very many different types of bushes for them to feed on here in the Masai Mara, and one of them is what they're eating, that is flowering at the moment, and they're loving it. It's one of the Mairua bushes. Look at him. He's moving on to the next bush. And his friend is just staying there, saying, Ian, yes, they do supplement. You ask if they do supplement their food sometimes. Yes, they have been seen eating bones, and I think that is to obtain calcium. Also, they have been observed, licking salt off the ground, so they do supplement their diet. Look at this. Yes, a Saval Cat just appeared. I had lost him earlier, but looks like he just came out, and she is on a hunt. This is one of our, small cats that are rarely seen. You might think it's a cheetah, but if you look carefully, you will see that it's got stripes on the back of its neck, and then the rest is spots. It's got slightly shorter tail and quite huge ears. Those ears act like a radar, so they pick up small noises in tall grass, and they do feed on small rodents, birds, even small reptiles. They will feed on them. They have the ability to leap up to around 6-7 feet from just staying still to pounce on small mice and birds, killing them with a crash, and usually biting them for the final kill crash. They are very territorial, a territory of up to 40 square kilometers. So it's one of the small cats with a very large home range or territory, and looks like this mom is out on a hunt. She might be looking for a bird, she might be looking for a mouse. Remember, these animals here have got inbuilt GPSs. They know which direction has got best food, and maybe she's headed to that direction where she thinks there is enough food. Very active during the day, also at night. And females do overlap males' territories. Yeah, looks like he's going farther and farther, which is quite okay with me. I hope you can see something. It's right behind that bush. We can't see him. See her anymore. There she is. Elizabeth, did you say it's pretty? I didn't hear that, but yes, for sure, it's one of the most, very, very pretty little cats. Looks like she's seriously looking for something. Right now, if she's got young, of which I did see two, but they're very well hidden quite, where she left. It's hard to see them. She will kill something and then bring it to them. They do suckle for a very short time, almost a month, and then immediately they start eating solids. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try and catch up with her. She looks like she's not a very shy one, and I'm lucky that she's walking almost close to the truck. Finak, how strong are their jaws? Oh dear. I have to check that one for you. I don't know about the jaw power, but I'll check that one for you, Finak. Tomorrow I'll try and write it down and tell you tomorrow how strong is the jaw power. But it's quite strong because it can crush a bird in an instant. I'm going to try and stop here and let her do her own thing. She's not very far from me. I'm hoping that she can find something, and then we can see her doing something. There she is. Well, I'm gonna stay with this beautiful cat for a little bit longer, and while I do that, let's take you to another, safari vehicle.
Oh, Isaac, you've been having such great luck with the servals. I hope that we'll see more of her. Here we have the less elegant rhinoceros tick. I was hoping that it wouldn't be so windy and I would actually be able to see it. I am also calling out to anybody who can recognize the sound. I think first I thought it was the beak snapping, that Geiger counter sound that I keep hearing. It was the beak snapping of a white-crested helmet shrike, which sounded similar, but I think it's... Do you hear that? It's something on the ground and that lives near water. If you can recognize that, please let me know what you think that is. I'm not sure what it is. I wonder if the rhinoceros tick is giving you a headache just yet, with the wind blowing like this. It is a tick, so it is an arachnid, like our spider friends. Parasitic arachnids. And rhinoceros tick because they primarily parasitize rhinoceros. Michelle, you think it's a spider? No, I don't think so. I must let you know that I don't know what that sound is. I've been trying to figure it out for a while, but I haven't been able to get you guys to hear it. And the first time I heard it, and we did listen to it together, I thought it was a bird that was making that sound, but then I zoned in on the spot and sat for a little while until it made the sound again. So it's definitely something that lives in or around water. Perhaps some sort of frog. Don't know. Ah, there we go. Now our tick is nice and still. So you can see 8 legs, and them along with mites constitute the subclass Akari, which are within arachnids. I got the suggestion it might be a cuckoo. Nope, it's not a bird. Gizmo, you think it's a cricket? It might be a cricket. But I've been trying to figure it out for a while. Whatever it is small. Because I can't see it when I had to walk around this little pan. Well, if you do recognize it, please let me know. Ian, a scorpion baby? Perhaps. I can't say I've ever heard one. It doesn't sound like a vocalization. It sounds like the clicking of something, clicking of wings, stridulation, something like that. Whatever it is small. It's definitely not coming from our tick, though. Picky, you say it's a golden leaf folding frog. Well, you know what, Picky? I'm definitely going to believe you because you are great with these things. I am going to sleep so well tonight. I've been trying to figure it out. So if it's a golden leaf folding frog, let me see if I can find them. I'm just going to hop out quickly. It goes quiet every time I hop out. Well, I can't see it. That's for sure. Okay. Well, Picky, if I was going to trust someone on that idea, it would be you, so thank you very much. Now I'm going to go listen to what they sound like all together. And then I'm sure I will finally be able to solve that sound that I was hearing. That is like a Geiger counter. It makes me feel like there's radioactive waste somewhere around here. And I'll be able to sleep peacefully. So thank you, everybody, and thank you especially to Picky.
Welcome back to the Mara, where we have marabou stock. They look like they have a meeting, but when you see these birds, know that there must be some food. We call these the Antarctica birds, because after lions, leopards, hyenas, and most of the carnivores have made a kill, whatever is left over, it's taken care of by these birds. We have a lion sleeping in the grass, but besides, or next to the lion, there's a buffalo carcass. Look at how he's panting. So this kill looks like it happened at night. So this lion has been guarding this kill for the entire day, and maybe from the time they began eating, because I understand there's another lion who is within here. Could be their two brothers. Since the carcass is on an open ground where there's no cover, they can't take it to a shade, so they have to guard it until they're full, until that meal is finished. Then they carry on. So they take turns to eat. Look at the vultures waiting. They're ready to take up big bites and fill up their crops as soon as these lions are out of here. So he'll wake up a bit later to come and eat. But of course I know he's hot, he was thirsty, so maybe he will take a turn after the other brother comes back. A marabou stock creeping in slowly. Look at this guy here. He's coming to investigate whether we are going on live on WildEarth or something else. Could be he heard me talk and wants to share maybe some of the story. Thank you for your question. I've never seen a vulture taking a resting lion thinking that it's a carcass. Yes, they can be able to tell if an animal is dead or not, but they're fully much experienced in telling a live from a dead animal. These birds have a unique system of cooling themselves. If you look carefully on their legs, they're kind of white in color. So when these birds are hot during the day, they will urinate on their legs, which we call it urohydrosis, and helps them cool their bodies. What a unique way to cool off your body. This marabou stock is so clever. He's creeping in because he knows that the lion is sleeping. How fun is this? He's looking, watching around, and as soon as he keeps on moving, he has to watch if the lion will wake up. How interesting is this? But the rest are also following. I'm going to watch and sit here as this marabou stock is creeping into the carcass and see if he will be lucky how creepy he is. Now I'm going to stay here, send you to another live location in Africa.
So we are sitting here with a brown eagle, which we are struggling to identify at the moment. He's just finished feeding on something. Or no, he's still feeding. But yeah, he looks like he might be ready to fly. He's finished feeding and he's started to clean his bill on the branches below him. So we just been discussing whether or not this is a tawny eagle or maybe a lesser spotted eagle, but we're thinking more on the side of the lesser just because of the size. It's a bit smaller than a tawny. But he looks like he's finished his meal. Oh, and there he goes. Bianca, I also did think that he looked like he had a bit of a crest on the back of his head, which is a giveaway for a Wahlberg's. So I think you might be right. Just struggling a little bit there. So well done with that identification. We're just going to try and move back a bit. There were two secretary birds sitting in a tree just behind us. So I'm going to see if we can't get back there and get a view of them. There we go. Pretty cool to see so much bird life, or especially of two pretty cool bird species, one after the other. Also pretty cool to see secretary birds up in the trees. Usually you see them stalking around the ground. For the secretary bird wingspan, I'm going to have to have a little think about it. It's probably, well, there you go, he's showing off. I think he heard your question. It's probably as long as 2 meters, maybe 1.5 meters. They're quite big birds, so obviously they need a big wingspan to pick up their body weight. But I'll have to try and find out the exact length for you. So although secretary birds do tend to walk around the ground, these two, they do roost in trees, and that's what we see these two doing now. We're just going to sit with them and see if they don't maybe fly down to the ground, but yeah, we'll see what happens.
From the first secretary bird to our marabou stock who was creeping over to the carcass, but then the lion woke up and chased them off. He's not going to take any chance to let anyone close to the carcass. So he's moved out a little bit closer to the carcass to ensure since it's still warm, he will wake up and maybe eat bit late as the temperatures cool down. He's panting heavily because it's too hot, because lions don't have sweaty glands, so they have sometimes to go and take a rest under a tree for good shade, where they lie on for about the entire day. Everyone is waiting because they are sure that after these lions have had their meal, which of the most vultures is unusual? We have an unusual vulture that is not here, but it's kind of unique because when they take the food, they actually have to go a long way back to their roosting place, which is called the Ruppel's Griffon, because they roost on trees, and sometimes they are known to travel up to about over 100 kilometers back and forth to the Mara. But it seems like because of the migration now, they are actually residents here. It's been long since I've seen these many marabou stocks. I only see one or two at a carcass, but because this carcass has been here for the entire day, that's why it has attracted so many birds over here. You see lots of vultures waiting, lots of marabou stocks. I'm sure by tomorrow morning there'll be even more as compared to the number right now. That marabou stock is not giving up, and I can see him creeping or getting closer to this carcass. Seems like he forgot what the lion did. So let's see what will happen again, because I'm sure if they get too close, he'll not be happy. He has to go back and chase them away. Anushka, thank you for your question. The biggest prey that they can catch is a buffalo, a fully mature buffalo, or maybe an eland. Because eland bull are super strong, they almost weigh about a ton, and also big buffalo bulls can weigh up to about 900 kilos, and some might even weigh up to a ton, so the lions can take down a big prey like that. Despite these birds being scavengers, they also Thank you so much for your question. That really helps them, because sometimes when they get into the carcasses, they fill up with blood and other soaking matter that is in the carcasses, so it helps to actually dry off, and that is where they also keep the crop, which is an easy way of also cooling off when they're cold, rather keeping warm when they're cold, because they lay there and tuck in their heads just on the necks when they're cold. A typical behavior also witnessed in vultures. And thank you so much for your question. They can fly over 1,200 meters above. So very, very, very high. Actually, the Ruppel's Griffon vulture can also fly over about 3,000 feet, because one was actually caught in an engine, aeroplane engine. which sometimes these Boeings fly over about 3,000. So these birds can fly up very, very high. No one is trying to get closer because of the lion, and I'm sure if the lion gets a chance to catch one, it will be dead. So they have to keep their distance. Remember I told you when it cools off, he will carry on and continue eating, and the other male lion that is around this area will come to join. It would be nice if he wakes up to eat and see if the other one will also join, which would be a good thing to see, because I haven't seen these lions eat for a long while. And as we sit here waiting to see what's going to happen next, I'm going to send you to another live location in the African wild.
Well, these little ones have decided it's time for them to eat. They frustrated Mom to such a degree that she actually moved off from the water, has come to the other side of the pan here, and has now been basically pinned down by these little ones. They've decided they want a little bit of milk. And they're little cubs, they're still very young, but the noises that they can make are quite... Sorry? Okay, copy. So we just got a lioness moving behind us here, guys. Ah, and there's the young male. They're still quite young, so they might do a little play. That lioness and that male, I'm almost 90% sure, are from the same litter. So they're actually siblings. Oopsie. But beautiful seeing these cats move through this arid environment. Really, really nice. I wonder where they could be going. Maybe tired of the moaning and groaning of the little ones. Namakwa calling their guys. Alright, well, two of the sub-adults gone off, and we've got the rest of them all laying this side. So, not uncommon to see cubs at this size nursing. Weaning will only be complete between 6 and 9 months for lions. That'll obviously vary depending on place to place, but it's general give and take 6 to 9 months. Look at that landscape, folks. The beautiful Coronaberg in the background, and the beautiful foliage from the blackthorn, the camelthorn, and as well as the shepherd's trees. And then lions laying on the beautiful red Kalahari sands. So at this stage of year, competition is quite fierce. And they will snarl, they will show teeth, they will use claws to get into the best position. And they've got little teeth, so if they get a little bit angry with one another, they can actually hurt Mom, and Mom gets frustrated and decides, okay, it's time to stop. But now she's got the utmost patience for them to do what they need to do. Yeah, and do lions have babysitters like hyenas do? In the beginning, when they are denning, so up to about 8 weeks Oh, she's getting angry. Look at her. Look at her teeth. Look at her ears. And she's making this soft, like, growl, belly growl. So in the beginning stages, no, it'll just be the mother and the cubs. So telltale signs of a lion's angry, guys. Watching the face, the position of the ears, the eyes, the teeth, and body posture. You can see that lady is not happy with those little ones. Obviously fighting amongst each other. They might be hurting mom, and mom's just getting angry. So then, on that question, yeah, so in the beginning when she's denning, it's mom by herself. And then when they introduce the cubs to the pride, around about 8-9 weeks, they also come into estrus together, so there could be multiple females that have little ones. So you will have somewhat of a babysitter when they go off hunting, just to ensure the safety of all the cubs within the pride. It's not always the case. Sometimes they leave. I've seen them leave 2 litters behind by themselves, go for 2 days hunt, and come back. So it all depends on the lion, the environment, and their behavioral traits, so to say, depending on where you go. But not a very clear creche or babysitter duty like hyenas, and as well as like wild dogs, and then meerkats. There's a defined and specific role that individuals will play there. Alan, so when do cubs become sub-adults, and when they change from sub-adults to adults? So they would be cubs until about, let's say, at about 11 months. Because that's when they will just start to adopt the hunting. So then they will change to sub-adults, and then they reach maturity at about 2 years. That's when they'll be adults. But obviously, breeding would be a little bit longer, 2 to 3 years for females, and then for lions, males, and mating, that'll only be maybe be at the age of 5-6 years old. So they're cubs until about 6-7 months. 6-7 months. Sub-adults to about 11 months, and then adults at about 2 years. So there's a lot of dedication that goes in, a lot of time and effort that goes into ensuring these little ones go through the cub, sub-adult, and adult stages. Obviously, safety numbers like this, you do not want to walk in with these ladies around and these little ones. So that's when they can be very aggressive. They have to be. They have to make sure they stand their ground and make sure that they... Oh, look at those teeth. She's still moaning. Look at how big those canines are. And look how they interlock with one another. Oh, she's getting angry with the fly. So those canines interlocking, you can see how the bottom ones slide up in between the top ones. And that position on how that dental structure is arranged allows her to clamp down perfectly on the airways of a potential item. It's a very, very important set of teeth to ensure that she can take something down efficiently. Richa. This lion snuck up behind us and Glenn gave me a fright because I looked and this lion was maybe 3 meters from the car. I jumped my bones there. Look at this lioness. Watch her behavior. So this was the lioness that walked off earlier with that other male. And you can see mom on the left there. She is not happy with these young males around. Okay, it was a little bit close. So it was that lady that came quite close to the car. We're going to send you off to another location. We'll see you soon. Glenn, don't scare me like that.
Well, my Saval Cat eluded me, and now I found this beautiful Greyback Strike, and there are 3 of them in that patch there. This bird belongs to the family of the shrikes, and they're highly gregarious. They hang in flocks of up to 20, and they are known for the behavior of actually acting like a butcher. Here in Africa, if you go to a butcher in a local village, it is very different. Very different that will shock you sometimes. What happens is the whole meat is hanging on a pole that is suspended like how you suspend a swing, and it's got 2 hooks facing the opposite sides. So it's hooked onto that and hanging down from that, swing-like pole that is suspended by 2 poles. And these birds do the same thing, where if they kill a grasshopper or a tiny little frog or a spider, they will feed on it, and after having their fill, they'll hook it onto a thorn and leave it there until they're ready to eat it again. And they could have a few pieces of meat or of different insects, or up to a frog, where they pull one every time they feel they're hungry. They usually guard it, not going very far, and so that's why they're called the butcher birds, because they behave very much like a butcher in Africa. I doubt if you have them, anywhere else, but that's how they behave. The call they are making tells me. Julia, Jumbo, thank you for your comment. You say gorgeous or beautiful bird? Yes, they are. The call they were making tells me that they've seen a predator or they see a snake. So they're trying to warn everybody who's around that to get away, all is not well. And when they go quiet, it means they cannot see the predator. Yeah, there they go. They have left me, and I have no other choice but to move on and try and find something else. The temperature has sort of dropped quite a lot now, and it is, cooling down. Guide Monkey, sorry, I didn't hear that question. Could you please phrase it once again? Phrase the question. I didn't hear the question. Sorry, I think we have to pass that question. You're breaking down. I cannot hear you really well, unfortunately. But the weather temperature is dropping. There's a bit of rain over on that side, but it's very beautiful in front of me. As you can see, it's quite beautiful in front of me. I'm gonna continue looking for the cats that I came out here to look. And while I continue, let me take you to another live safari vehicle.
Good luck on that side, Isaac. I'm sure you'll have success. Just to clarify on that question about the age of a cub, sub-adult and adult. So I would say these little cats would be cubs from up to between 6 and 9 months. That's normally when they are weaned as well. So I would still call it a cub until that period. Thereafter, they are sub-adults. Then they would obviously start getting more involved into different activities. Then they really start getting involved in hunting at around about 10, 11 months. So then that period would be their sub-adult stage, and then maturity would be at around about 2 years. So from the 10, 11 month mark up to when they finally reach sexual maturity, that's when they become adults at about 2 years, and maybe a little bit more. So sorry about my little jump. That line was fairly close, maybe about 3-4 meters. And obviously, just not knowing it's there and then me seeing it, my bones jumped a little bit. So the lioness on the right, I think, might be coming into estrus. Just her behavior and how she walked away, how the other male followed her, how she flicked her tail. So I think she might be coming to estrus, and you can see she's very restless. She wants to lay closer to everybody. And you can see how that young male followed her around the side of the bush, and she obviously came closer, and then the big mom on the left there showed a bit of aggression, and that's when that young male kept his distance. Because little cubs like this, there is a chance that something could happen from these older males. Anyway, would lions from the same litter reproduce? So I'm not too sure with siblings. I would have to take a look in that. It is a possibility. So if you look at animals, they're driven by senses. So my gut would say it would be a possibility. I've read accounts where the fathers mate with daughters 2 or 3 times. It's not uncommon within the natural world where that would happen. But if it is over a longer period, you will start depleting the genetic value of these animals. And then that's where you could obviously have a depletion in the gene pool. So once or twice, if it is like that, it's not an uncommon thing, especially with fathers and daughters, especially with lions. I've read accounts of that. But siblings, I don't see why not. If there was no other lions, and pheromones and the chemical cues given off by a female drive the male's activity, where he wouldn't see it as wrong. As with humans, it's different. But remember, these chemicals are like light switches going on for these animals. It's like clockwork. But I'd have to look and clarify that. I would say my tummy, I wouldn't see why it wouldn't, but I would like to clarify. So I'd have to go do a little bit of reading tonight just to be sure on that question. But lions are very complex. We're still learning. Obviously, with their status, we've got to learn as much as possible to protect them. There's around about 20,000 left on the continent. And obviously, because of the human aspect, encroaching on their natural habitat is one of the bigger factors detrimentally affecting their numbers across Africa. See, her teeth are quite yellow, so it shows she's a bit of an older female. If that younger female that came here earlier showed us her teeth, you see her teeth are fairly white. Elisa, that time period of how long a male will be in charge varies. It varies on lion population within a given area. But you're looking at an average every 3 or 4 years, a male will be in charge within a pride. Obviously, females stay into this tight-knit group. But every 3 or 4 years, you'll have new male or new males coming in and displacing the current male. And that's very important to ensure that the genetic flow is changed on a continual basis. Good genetics is very important because it's a very important factor in how lions can adapt, especially to things like diseases. So if you have a genetic depletion, lions can become susceptible to a wide variety of diseases. And the stronger, the healthier the genetics, the more resilient they are. So for that, every 3-4 years, a changeover of a male, new male comes in, displaces the old male, and that's why males only live to about 9 years, if they're lucky. The new male brings in genetics and then reshapes the genetic pool, or code, let's say at that, which obviously ensures their safety over a long period. I'm not talking 1 or 2 days, I'm talking, 50, 60 years. When that genetic change happens, it makes them more resilient to different things. So healthy genetics is very important. Every 3 or 4 years, a male will then would come through. And obviously, if there is a coalition, that could be a little bit longer. Because of being in a coalition, you have more individuals, you can be at a stronger standing point. We're going to send you off to another location. Hopefully Isaac's had some luck. Hopefully you guys are going there, and we'll see you shortly.
From the genetic strength of lion to our impalas here who are resting or picked a spot where they rest for the night. We have Topi who are grazing. Look at this impala. They have small kids here who are also worried because there's some jackals who passed by. Impala young ones tend to fall prey to jackals, and after they give birth, these jackals always give them a hard time. So sometimes they have to be worried when jackals are around. They specialize in taking down these young impalas. So this is a nice spot where it's open, the grass is short, so they'll take refuge for the night. Of course, this is a good place because the harems are actually controlled by rams who mark their territory, and within this territory they make sure that no other rams get closer. I don't know where the dominant ram is. It seems like he must be around somewhere, or maybe trying to gather these females to come closer to this spot. Can you see that little one nursing there? How cute is that? So cool. They give birth about just after the rains. So I'd say about July or August, that is when they give birth. And sometimes you find them around September giving birth. So some of these are about a week and a half or a month old. We have teeny tiny ones who are about a week and a half, and we have others that are about a month old. So they carry on grazing, but at night they'll settle down where they'll rest until morning. Then in the morning, they carry on grazing to find somewhere for water. So they make short strips because of these young ones. Okay, see, the sun is setting down there. Beautiful color in the Lolo escarpment. You can hear hippos grunting, frogs croaking, birds chirping. Interesting sounds coming from the savannah here. So as these impalas are settling for the night, I just carry on to find the creatures of the night who might be up and awake to carry on for the entire activity that is always interesting to watch if you come across the night creatures. And as we do so, let's take you over to another safari vehicle.
So finally, some more elephant bulls. Basically, we're back with the same bachelor herd that we started with at the beginning of the game drive. Now we've got a wonderful view of this rather large elephant. He's not massive in size. I would say Kumo, who's the elephant that we see regularly, is bigger in terms of body size than him, but look how enormous his tusks are. He's got a lovely set of tusks on him. And he is now handling that tree very easily. I was just saying how who needs to eat sticks when there's green grass around? And of course there's one out of all the elephants that are feeding here that will of course decide to eat on the drier vegetation. And that's this fella. Maybe that's why he's got such big long tusks. Who knows, maybe he's got a secret. No, I'm just joking, that's probably not it. It's all got to do with genetics, but he's a lovely fella. Well, he hasn't, I say this, he hasn't given us any trouble just yet. With those long eyelashes. And then I'm sure you can hear the munching of the other elephants as they feed on greener vegetation, but he's just twisting that small twig around. Blue red metal, I think I got the gist of your question about how delicate is an elephant's trunk. Well, I'd say for the most part, I don't think it's particularly delicate until you move down towards the tips, the two little finger-like protrusions that elephants have on the tip of their trunk. So African elephants have two, and Asian elephants only have one. And I mean, now he's obviously gripping the grass and pulling it out, but you'll see them, they'll move their trunks around and very gently pick up all sorts of things, from an individual twig to a small pebble, if you're a little elephant, and then of course able to pluck the grass like that. So that the ability to pick up small things very gracefully is something quite unique to these behemoth creatures. But otherwise, you can see they use the rest of their trunk, which is filled with muscles, and they'll use that almost as brute force. You can see he's actually using his tusk as well as a bit of leverage. That's not working, so now it looks like he's going to use his foot. Look there, watch how he snaps it. And he's going to pull his trunk maybe downwards and over the top of his trunk. It's the equivalent of if you are breaking pieces of wood. Have you ever put a piece of wood against your knee or your shin and pulled it towards yourself? And then you snap it like that. So you can see those tusks are really helpful tools for elephants. And out here, it must be difficult for elephants that don't have tusks. Because obviously, there are quite a few that unfortunately don't have the genetics that carry tusks, or maybe they've snapped them both off. In dry season, it must be quite hard. But now it's not so bad with all the green vegetation coming through. They're so peaceful. Just minding their own business while I sit here and talk absolute nonsense about him. Ooh, I'm going to have to hear that question again. Sorry, some of these questions are so long that it's quite difficult to get the gist of them. So I'll just wait for Gwyn who's directing, to let me know what that question was. I can't. All I'm hearing is... And I think a lot of the words sound the same. So I think there's a crucial part that I'm missing there that's not coming through very clearly, I'm afraid. Sorry, so I don't actually quite get what you are asking me. My apologies. If I see it on Twitter later, I shall answer it. If this is a question from Twitter. Look at those lovely wrinkles in his trunk, though. I'm so sorry. Even Sebastian is shaking his head, who's on camera with me, going, I cannot hear. All the words are blending into one, and I cannot understand what I'm being asked this afternoon. So I think we'll just skip that. Oh, this elephant does look like he needs a bit of floss, though. Hey, can you see that, Seb? Oh, he's got a stick wedged between the folds of skin on his trunk and his tusk. Look at that. That can't be very comfortable. I wonder how long it's going to take him before he actually pulls that out, or if he's just going to walk around with it now. It's maybe like, when you often see the farmers, how they put a toothpick or a blade of grass, and just stick it on the side of their teeth. Hello, boy. He was going to do exactly what an elephant bull likes to do. Go walk there nicely, though. No. So see how he's trying to walk there, but you don't have to come right up to the car and intimidate anybody. Thank you. He took 2 steps way too close, and that's not where he was going. But then he quickly changed his mind when I started the car. Actually going this way, no problem. Still got the piece of branch stuck between his tusk and his trunk. That's so funny. I don't think I've ever seen that happen. And I don't know why, I was also thinking of flossing teeth. But anyways, off he goes. But now I'm going to just reverse quickly, Seb. And then we should get another view of these 2 younger elephants. Hi, boys. Who are standing up on the termite mound. There's also lots of holes in this mound. No warthogs or hyenas here, though. We won't be watching the grass blow in the wind, though, this afternoon, because we've got elephants to look at. But you can see these boys are much smaller. Also, this fellow's got slightly long tusks, though. Not as thick as the previous elephant. And being quite clever and feeding on the nice, lush, juicy leaves. And I'm sure that he's enjoying having a break from having to grind up and chew his food as much as the dry vegetation.
Okay, so we have been searching for pretty much the entire afternoon. We had reports of a cheetah that came across onto Ngala, but we had no luck at finding this cheetah. But you see here, we got a few birds. This is a perfect area. I mean, this is he zooms out a bit here, you'll see very, very open. You got the Swainson spurfowl over there in the grass. See how green it is, all these new little shoots. Got the little insects, everything around now after the rain. And it's a great place for these impalas, these birds, especially now that it's getting later. It's getting darker. These animals are going to start looking for a place to sleep. This would be the perfect place. You can see that one male there. Majority of the impalas in this area, well, right here in this herd, are females. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4 old males. Otherwise, as you can see there, pretty much all females. And a lot of them. This is a big herd. Can't see, but it spans all the way across to our right-hand side. Very, very big. Safety in numbers, especially in the weather that we're having. It's very windy at the moment. And that makes these sort of prey species, the impalas, the zebras, the wildebeest, quite nervous. Can't hear very well. They see too well because everything's rustling. Everything's moving. So they form up in these big, big groups like we're seeing here and sleep in a relatively open area like this. They feel safer there where they can still see a lion or a leopard or hyena, whatever it may be, is coming up to them. They still got a bit of protection with the bushes and a lot of rocks here, so around the rocks. We're hoping that a high number of impalas, I guess, might attract the cheetah's daytime animals. So it's probably got maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, maybe 40 minutes left of actual sunlight in order to hunt. Running out of time, running out of opportunities. So AD and I thought we'd wait in an area like this if there's any luck, but not yet. The impalas have been quite accommodating for us, staying a bit in the open, looking beautiful with their colors, all looking the same, very uniform. The duck out of the way there. Okay, so we've got a question from good old Sassy Cassie. Hello, Sassy Cassie. I haven't heard from you in a long time. Sassy Cassie wants to know how long an impala lamb will suckle for before it starts eating vegetation. And Sassy Cassie, that's a very good question. I'm not actually sure on the exact number of weeks or months. I would have to just look it up to be 100%. But from my experience, I'd say they probably start eating vegetation. I've seen young ones, 2-3 months, eating vegetation already. It's quite quick. And they're not solely relying on vegetation at that age, but they are capable of eating it at around that age. They will still suckle for a number of probably weeks after that. Sassy Cassie, but let me have a look and I'll let you know in the morning, give you an exact answer in the morning. But they should be giving birth now. We've had a lot of early rains. So I would imagine around middle to end of November, going into beginning, middle of December, when a lot of these Impala, the females will start to give birth. So it's an exciting time ahead. You can see a few of them starting to gain a bit of weight. And give it another sort of month and a half, 2 months, and we should have a lot of little lambs running around. So if you keep watching Sassy Cassie, we can keep you updated. We can follow them and see how long it takes before they are weaned off completely.
All right, so those two ladies are still out for the count. The male's still somewhere behind there. And the little cubbies have now irritated Mom to such a degree that she has moved off on the right-hand side of us. And Glenn was sitting behind me and he actually heard something and he voiced his opinion. So when we came in here, we got all the tracks moving from behind us to the waterhole, which is on the left-hand side of those beautiful ladies. So the track set, and obviously Glenn's saying it, I think that Glenn was right. I think there's a carcass somewhere in the back over here. And that's where we've heard a little bit of vocalization. That's where that male and female went off. And then you can see Mom and the little ones now tucked up underneath this blackthorn. So they've relocated. They've obviously pushed it to that point. And you can see she's now closed for business at this point in time. But the heat of the day is now broken. It's onto that cool afternoon feeling. It's the best part for me in the afternoon. It's this lovely feeling. And a great question about the mating with siblings. Great question. Thank you very much for that. That is one question I'm going to get back to you on, just to clarify and make sure that my ducks are in the row. But how beautiful is that? Wow. Blue skies and red sands. And if you were walking here, you could walk right past you, not even seeing that lion. So you can see how those coats are perfectly adapted to fit within different color schemes. That tawny, khaki color is perfect for concealment. And she's designed in every way to be the top machine when it comes to bringing dinner home.
Okay, here I have a migrating herd of wildebeest, and this is how typically they migrate when they mean business. Here it's a stretch of line that is continuous. I don't know for how far, but they have been passing me and going and going and going. Typical of the migrating time. This is what they do. They just move in a single file from as far as you can see. They are running, aiming for a certain direction. At the moment, they are heading down south. So heading down towards the Serengeti. It's quite a long way, but maybe if they were to continue the same pace, in about 2 days, they will get to the border. But I doubt if that's completely what is on their mind, because as you can see, everything has slowed down. Now it's walking. I think they were just moving from this area thinking that it's very dangerous, and so they wanted to get out of it really fast. Remember, these are migrating herds. They have been here with us for quite a while, and It's been nice to have them here. They're still here, but they're still wanting to go back. They are not over yet. They're still coming, one after the other. These are the draggers coming from behind. Yeah, that's them making progress. It can continue sometimes for a few miles. You can see it goes on. I don't know if that's the last bit for this moment. No, there is another one. No, oh, they're still coming. Origami, Jumbo, you talk about the skinny legs. Be careful they don't hear you. But, you know, they have four. They're skinny, four, and a very, very, very hard bone. Believe me, it is very hard. The only animal that can break it open is hyena, and sometimes they also struggle. So it is a very strong and hard bone. So it might look skinny, but add four of them, and the weight is well distributed, so they can carry the weight. Yes, they're still coming and coming and coming. How cool is this? I hope you're enjoying this. It's quite rather interesting because I don't know if some of them have ever thought about if the others in front have survived or not, and they're just heading to death because they're just running and running and running. You know, I would think twice, you know, following somebody blindly. But they are wildebeest, and this is what they do best. Migrating, this is what they're doing. Yeah, this is really nice. Just gonna leave the camera at that angle maybe, and for you to enjoy this little scene while we take you to another safari vehicle.
From the wildebeest to one of our biggest geese, the Sparring Goose. Look at how he's walking slowly, majestically. I haven't seen this goose in a long while, so actually it's an excitement to see the Sparring Goose. He's actually by himself, but sometimes you find them solitary or sometimes in pairs. These birds can weigh up to about 6.5 kilos. You find that sometimes the males and the females differ in size and also in color, because the males have a red patch above the upper mandible that is conspicuous more than the female. As people may eat beetle or these goose, they are poisonous because they eat what we call blister beetles, which make them a little bit poisonous. So in the old days when people used to eat the geese, they never used to eat this. Although in the wild these are very much secure. We have people don't eat wild animals here. This geese excites me because of its size and how they are super silent. Unlike the Egyptian geese, who are very noisy, this goose is always silent. Only the male sometimes will utter some sounds or noises when they're alarmed, but they're always silent. Can hear frogs in the river, can hear the reed frogs, can hear another beat. Lina, thank you. Indeed, I can't agree more. Just listen to the sound of the frogs. So these birds occur in open grassland, seasonal pools, rivers, and even by the lake. But I tell you, this is one bird that always excites me whenever I find them, because we've seen a number of birds that migrate to the Mara, and of course this season being the migratory time, when you have birds migrating all the way from Europe, Asia, America. But even though this is not a migrant, it's always make me happy whenever I see this kind of bird who sometimes disappear, and I don't know where they go to, maybe to other swamps, which is interesting. I will leave the Sparring Goose alone and carry on, maybe to find something else, as we link, send you over to another live location.
There, we have returned to Tundi. We had to go off and do some other stuff, I'm afraid, but we're back now, and there is Tundi enjoying what can only be described as, I think, a fairly hard pillow. I'm sure you can agree, or would agree. A hard stick pillow. And she's opened her eyes to say hello to you now. Yes, I'm not surprised she's moving around. It doesn't look like the most comfortable place in the world to sleep. But you can see she's panting, full of good food. And apparently the little one is just down below, obscured by the bushes. It's so exciting, when you find a leopard, and then when you find a leopard on a kill, it's even more exciting. And if you know the kill is hoisted into a tree, then it's even more exciting, because it means that the leopard is going to be around for a little while, and that's always very exciting. It's a profound joy to wake up in the morning knowing that you're coming to a leopard sighting. Amy, it depends very much on what they feed on. There's no set time. She will sleep on average probably around 14 to 16 hours a day, depending on the day and depending on what she's eaten. But I think you'll find that there's really no way of telling exactly how long they sleep after how much food, unless you were able to measure exactly how much food went in and then how much sleep they took. Depends on where they are, how comfortable they are there any threats around, are there hyenas about, is it hot, do they need to drink, do they not need to drink, do they want to drink. So, yeah, I think there are too many variables, I'm afraid, to give you an answer worth it calling an answer, if you know what I mean. That is an amazing pose she had going there. Hadonke, yes indeed. Tundi has eaten well over the last few days. With any luck, she will continue to do so. I don't think she's sleeping so well, though. I mean, that looks like a particularly uncomfortable bed, and I'm not really sure why she's chosen it. Let's move, because that other vehicle's gone, and before it gets dark, I want to have a quick look at the baby. BK, do watch out for trees, would you? We have a problem now because what I've done is gone over a tree and it's stuck up and is into the fan belt, or into the fan, which is a problem. I think we're going to have to say goodbye to you for a little while.
Welcome back. Welcome to Tswalu Kalahari. Wonderful to have you guys back. Sitting here and pondering about that great question that was asked. It's always questions like that where you get asked off the bat, and then only later along the lines when you sit down and think about it, it starts coming together. So if you think about the normal social structure of lions, male lions, when they start reaching maturity, they are expelled. So the chances of a male sibling mating with his sister is very unlikely, because they would be off in their solitary form of life until they are very much older, until they can take over their own pride. Obviously, in another environment, excluding the wild, that could happen a lot faster, where male sibling can mate with a female sister, and as well as with father and daughter. So the expelling of the male would eliminate that action of happening, let's say it that. But as with lions I've read, and as well as with other animals across the board, there is many occurrences where father mates with daughter. Just go on the right here, Glenn. Look at this little cub coming through here. So I'm going to take a look at the little cub. He's getting a little bit interested in us. Beautiful. See his cub spot still very prominent. And that's just aiding in camouflage when mom leaves him alone. But what I was getting to is that I will just... Sorry? What I was getting to is that I'm going to ask the guru, Mr. Gus van Dijk, if he has any further knowledge on that wonderful question that was asked. So I hope that kind of clarifies it, but I definitely wanted to delve more into that question. Should we try and move the vehicle, Glenn?
I'm going to mom over there.
Okay. So mom's still taking it easy. We haven't heard anything from those other lions. Yeah, great question. Do lions mourn? I've seen documentaries where lions do show a sense of... where lions do show a mourning format or sense of remorse or sadness, but that's over a very short period. They know that they need to continue doing what they're doing. There's definitely, if a lioness loses her cub, she does show somewhat of a mourning phase, what we think is mourning, but she could just be going through her normal process. Remember, we're taking our own feelings, our own emotions, our own interpretations of it, and trying to apply it into an animal, where it could be 180 degrees off of what that animal's really going through. But I would like to think that, she is sad, because it is an investment. It is especially for a mom, the bond between mom and daughter or mom and offspring is very, very strong. With elephants, they mourn, they would stand around a carcass for days. I've noticed that in the Eastern Cape, where I used to guide in a beautiful little reserve, where a young bull elephant was killed by a dominant bull, and where his carcass was, that exact spot, when they came through that area, they would stop at that exact spot for a couple of hours, and they would go into like this deep, calming standstill, and they would all just almost like touch the ground with their trunks, and there won't be a lot of movement, so be a little bit of tummy rumbling. So, maybe there is some sense, but for us to understand that, very tricky. Our interpretation, our feeling about it, let's say it that. But it's strong. If she didn't have any feelings about the little ones, she wouldn't really worry about them. She wouldn't protect them. She wouldn't go on how she does. Insects don't really show remorse. They drop the eggs or drop the young and they're gone. But with lions, they're a little bit more complex, a little more, in tune with each other, let's say at that. And that's where this social format comes into play. But then obviously with cub mortalities is quite high with lions. It's a very high percentage. And in some cases, they'll actually consume the cub. And that's just her stimulating and regaining nutrients before she has to push on to the next set. We're going to send you off to another amazing location.
From the lions down in southern Africa, we have 2 lionesses that are leading us. I'm not sure where they're taking us, but possibly they are in pursuit of prey. It's the hunting time. It's nighttime, it's cool, so these lions are locating for prey. Yesterday, these 2 lionesses managed to take down a wildebeest, but because there was another male lion by the name of Lashe and a younger male lion and another lioness, so I think that meal was not enough for them. So possibly now they'll be walking towards where the herds are. There will be some zebra, so that is why we are following them closely. Look at how she's just keenly walking next to the road. I'm still following them because they're just going towards the grasses. Thank you for your question. Yes, lions will use the bushes to stalk prey, at least to conceal themselves or to hide, where it will be interesting because once they are not seen, they'll manage to get closer to prey. And sometimes behind those bushes, there might be other animals trying to hide. So it becomes an advantage when they use those bushes. Because of the movement of herd or game, lions keep on walking, following these animals. And whenever they come across them in a move, they have to follow. So it seems like the herd that was around here went that direction. That's why these lions are taking us to that direction. So as I follow these lions, let's send you over to another live location.
Well, you'll be pleased to know that the stick that got itself into our fan escaped of its own volition, and so we came back in here, and this little cub came out to see what was going on. There is a photographic vehicle behind us. As you might be able to tell, that is not lightning that you can see flashing in the background. The skies are clear. And young master Tundi's baby is having a look around us. Oh, he's so tired. His belly is so full. His mother is still up in the tree. She's turned her head the other way and seems to be quite sleepy. And many of you saying that the cub is so cute. Well, yeah, he is. There's no question. He's got quite a nice little individual face, I think. In the background, I can hear a lion calling. I took a picture nights ago, yeah, of the lion cubs, and one had very bluish eyes and one had very orange eyes. This guy has got almost colourless eyes, and I've noticed that even when you're editing a photograph of this fellow and you put a little filter over his eyes and then try and blow the saturation out just to see exactly what colour they are, they don't have a lot of colour in them. And I think that gives him that rather individual look he has. Also, he got very pale eyebrows, and, well, what's very standard is the white under the eyes, but that pale eyebrow and pale eyes, I think, give him a very distinctive look. I think it was Ian asking, do they drink more than the parents do? No, I don't think so. Leopards are, to a large extent, independent of water. They do drink in environments where they can, but they don't always drink. And so, like on a day like today, it wasn't very hot, there's lots of shade around. Neither of them would have left here, I don't think. I think they stayed right where they are. And also this time of the year, remember that there are puddles everywhere. And leopards and lions don't mind what kind of water they drink. They're very happy to drink muddy water, and so they won't go off to a waterhole where the water's a bit cleaner. They'll very happily just drink from whatever puddle they can find. But I don't think he needs to drink more than she does. Oh, can we go back to her, BK? She looks like me, and no doubt many of you, in an aeroplane trying to sleep in economy class. Your elbow on the chair next door sliding off, and you're desperately trying to fall asleep and hope that you won't mind where your elbow goes, but no, it's not possible, because the laws of physics will just not allow it to stay where it would. Oh, that's horrible. It looks so uncomfortable.
Well, there's never a dull day in the Mara, and finally I've come across this beautiful lioness of the Owino Pride. She's all by herself, and the reason I suspect she's from the Owino, I'm in the Owino's area, Owino's Pride area. In case you don't know, we have names for a few prides in the Mara, and one of them is named after Owino, a very famous driver guide who used to guide in one of the camps around here a few years back, and this area is named after him. So this pride is called Owino, the Owino Pride, and this is one of the females. She was in a tree and then she came down, and looks now she wants to look sharp for something, trying to find a position so that she can clean herself maybe. Looks like she's in perfect shape, very healthy, and she keeps looking in that direction. Definitely something is going on. Either she expects to, meet a sister, or maybe she did see something that was heading her way from that direction, and that's why she is looking in that direction. Remember, lions have got the ability to see much better than most animals, and us at night. Beautiful. Look at those canines. A lioness or a lion with those canines is complete, because those are the teeth that make most kills and actually give them a chance to survive, because without them they cannot kill, they cannot fight. So it is very useful to have them. Do that glowy. That's glowy is shining back at our infrared, and maybe it is multiplying the light was shining in his eyes backwards, and it can see me really, really well. That's what happens with the light outside. It gets inside the eye, and a modified eye, bounces it back so that it can see better. She's a very, very big female. Look at her. Just super. We are on infrared. We are not disturbing her at all. If I look with my naked eye out there, I could not see anything. But with the lights, we can see. Who is the king of the jungle? The king of the jungle is the elephant. Period. Yeah, nobody, says anything to the elephant here. He's the main animal. Yeah, he's the main king. King of the jungle is the elephant. I'm gonna move forward and follow her. She might lead me to the rest of the pride, which could be, an icing on the cake, or a jackpot, as I like, calling it. And she's moving very, very fast. Remember, these animals are nocturnal, and they're very, very active at night. As I follow her, allow me to take you to another live safari vehicle.
Oh, and these guys going absolutely nowhere. Glenn, can you get on that one laying on its back? Glenn's going to show you this lioness in a very comfortable state. Look at her forearms, or her front paws. That's when you know you're out for the count. So I've seen lionesses lose cubs, and there is a little bit of remorse, what we interpreted as remorse. Jessica, do the cobras ever bite the lions? There has been instances where snakes have bitten lions, but lions, like most animals, have that natural internal instinct, knowing when something is dangerous. And by the sound, the movement of a snake, these lions will know that they should keep a great distance or a nice wide berth around a snake. But there's instances where black mambas have bitten lions and cubs as well. But the internal natural instinct, they would know to respect that animal and give the animal as much space as possible. But a very beautiful afternoon it is here. And I did have some feedback from the guru, Mr. Gus van Dijk. So in a confined space, very small reserves where you're not managing populations, that's unfortunately what you have to do in small areas. You have to manage lion populations. And that's very important for the genetic value of lions across Africa. So if they're not managed correctly, that interbreeding with siblings can happen. But it doesn't normally happen within a natural state like we have here. But it isn't an uncommon thing across the board with many species of animal. But I have read male with a female once or twice is not uncommon. So my stomach's a little more settled on that question. And I hope the person that asked that question, thank you very much. I hope that clarifies things as well. Tim, that's the yoga pose. I think that's our yoga pose for today. I think I'm going to go try and practice that one at about 9 o'clock tonight. Nice comment there from Tim. It's obviously where her tummy feels the most comfortable there. in that position, because with the lions feeding and how they feed on a carcass, and they've recently fed, female can consume up to 15 kilograms, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, at one sitting. And just think about, even when you have a big meal, how uncomfortable one feels, especially if it's really good and you go back for seconds and then you have dessert and you think, oh my word, I'm going to explode. That's obviously a lot more easier on the diaphragm and all the other bits and pieces inside there.
You can see on this male line here, the big tummy.
Sure, oh my word. So Glenn's pointed out this male. Look how distended and how large his ribs are being pushed up from the food inside there. It looks like he's pregnant. I would say about 9 months. The lion's only pregnant for about 110 days. A very quick gestation period, and that's obviously ensuring that that female is pregnant. She drops the litter and then she's able to do what she needs to do. You're panting. It's like when we exercise our dog at home. She lays on the ground for a couple of hours like that and just breathes. You're out for the count. Look at her paws. Yeah, so beautiful pads, nicely displayed there. We're going to enjoy these pads. We're going to send you off to another location.
Our little baby leopard is still snoozing on the ground there. I think it's part curiosity, part enjoyment of snooze. But I do think that there's an element of curiosity there, because he's purposely come out at the drainage line to lie on the ground where he can see us. And that's great, because maybe it means that he's getting slightly less nervous of vehicles. But you can see already, like an adult, he is just as alert all the time. He's also going to feel a little bit like Scarlett Johansson on the red carpet. Girl with the box. What a name. Girl with the box. Cubs and adults don't often choose to sleep in trees. They will much more often choose to spend time on the ground when they sleep. And they'll only rest in trees basically after they've been feeding, like her mum's doing, or his mum is doing. So his mum's watching him, but you could see how uncomfortable she was, and so normally what they'll do is sleep down on the ground. You see, this is a classic kind of nervous leopard behavior. He's starting to explore a bit, simply because it's getting darker. And there's Tandy giving a nice look at him, watching him carefully, making sure he's safe.
All right, still on this big, beautiful male. Well, young, beautiful male. You can see he hasn't gone through the normal process of becoming a big male. He hasn't got enough scars on his face. Obviously very important ID tools for us to ID certain individuals. Teeth would be one. And you can see this chap has reached maturity. His nose is going grey. When they're still young, they're still in the maturity stages, their nose will be pink, so that the section in the middle between the two nostrils itself. And that mane is starting to grow. And that'll be his final dress code when he's got that big mane at about 6 years of age. But a very large head, that is. See the blood pumping through his arteries there as well. It's also that. Wow. Incredible. So Glenn had us on a very nice spot there, and we spoke about looking at cats and how we're going to ID a cat track. Glenn, can you put us back there? And then to that lioness in her yoga pose. There we go. You can see those 3 lobes in that back pad clearly there. And that is a characteristic of the cat family. You can see the extension from that main pad. You can see 1, 2, and just the third one at the bottom. Nice rounded track. Bit of padding in between to keep them nice and quiet. And obviously those claws being pulled into the sheath to remain sharp. Beautiful. It's when you've got time like this that you can really appreciate all the tiny aspects of a lion. Well, not just a lion, any animal, when you've got the privilege of time. It's one thing that goes very quickly, and when you have time like this, it's a real privilege. Is that nice fur? Some biting flies. Oh, she's art. Whoa, June, how many hours a day do they sleep? June, they're only operating 2 to 4 hours a day. So 18 to 20 hours, lions are out for the count. The notion would be that they're very lazy, but it's actually very clever from an animal that has to go in search of prey every couple of days. So these big bellies are full of food right now, and what they're doing now is just slowing everything down so that that food in the tummy can be extended as far as possible. Because if they were running around and going up and down the mountain, that means their metabolic processes, the activity is increased, and so that will allow them to burn more food. But if they remain inactive and only become active when they need to, that ensures that the last meal that they have gets stretched out as far as possible. So being inactive for 18 to 20 hours a day is brilliant, especially in a hot and unforgiving environment like the Kalahari. In those midday temperatures, you don't want to be doing anything but sleeping under a bush. So now I think to myself, how much do they dream? What do they dream about? It's beautiful. So it's beautiful of just with the lions in the setting of the beautiful Coronaburg range. You can see how the light is just starting to tickle all that beautiful vibrant green. And what a setting it is. I always say a dog's life because of how much it sleeps and what it does, but a lion's life is just like a dog's life. And the male exhaling there quite strongly. So everybody out for the count, but their senses are tuned. Very acute sense of smell, fairly good. Hearing, very good. And obviously the eyesight, next to nothing now. Oh, beautiful. So after a big meal like they've had now, this is more than likely what they're doing close to this watering hole, especially these young cubs that we saw earlier. My experience I've found with young cubs, as soon as they've had a meal, they are persistent. They want to go to water. Obviously, nothing quenches the thirst like water does.
Well, it is true they have amazing eyesight and very good sense of hearing, and also the sense of smell is equivalent to none. 3 essential tools that play a very big role in these animals' life, because in pitch dark like this, without good sight, good smell, good sense of hearing, chances of finding anything are 0. And so, when it stops like this, I can tell it is using these senses. Just take a look at this lioness. Take a look at the ears. It's not facing us, but it is definitely trying to figure out or look at something. Look at that. I tell you, it is true. It is pitch dark. Unless we didn't have this IR, we couldn't see anything. Beautifully on. Usually a very good sign of getting restless. Time to move on. Either take a deeper nap or move on. Yes, I was talking about you. She's a very big lioness. And not afraid of anything. That's why she's moving like, she owns this patch. Yeah, time to move on once again. She hasn't eaten in maybe 2 days. Doesn't have any nipples, so she's not suckling, but looks in very good shape. Maybe trying to locate the rest of the pride. And, slowly you will tell how far our infrared can show you this amazing experience at night. She gonna sit again? Yes. Maybe it is a better position to look at a different direction. But definitely, once again, she is trying to look at something. She is listening. And I can hear some hyena somewhere howling. Yes, I don't know if you heard, but there's some hyena trying to locate one another, because it is a long whoop, trying to call one another. Sometimes when they're really excited, they will laugh, and that's when I know they're together. But right now it looks like they're trying to locate one another. In this pride, it has been a little bit of an issue for us to find all of them together, but Olalashe and Kijana, which is the young male that he adopted as a coalition male, are the 2 main dominant males in this pride. And then they have about 4 or 5 females, and then about 3 cubs. 2 are the same age, and 1 is slightly older, about 8 months. But finding them together has been like an exam. You don't know when you're gonna see them. You're always here trying to find them, but you never find them together. But I know sooner or later we'll be able to find them. Well, in this time of abundance, when the wildebeest and zebra are here, it is sometimes difficult to find prides together, because there is enough. We don't need to be together. But once the wildebeest are gone, they will have to come together to join efforts so that they can bring big and slow animals that are going to be left here. For sure, we'll have zebras. Wildebeest will have giraffe, buffalo, and so they have to go for them. And that's when it's the best to see all prides together. But we've been seeing lone ones quite a lot You might find 2 here, 1 there, 3 there, 4 there, but not more than 9 or 10, like it's normal for the mara to see, to find big prides together. I was trying to listen, thought I heard a lion roaring, but it was false alarm. She's still listening, looking into that direction like, there is something she's waiting for. Lions are very successful during the night, when hunting. And you can tell why. It's quite dark. Animals sometimes, don't have good eyesight like them. Most of them, they do see, but they depend on the sense of smell more than, sight at night. And so the lions, with their good senses, they are able to stalk them, ambush them, and so they are much more successful. For every 10 tries lions try, they are actually successful at the rate of about 4. So they are very poor, but where they really try. They're always trying. Yeah, and sometimes we call them opportunistic, because lions will not waste a chance if it prevails itself. If they're full, there is a warthog, why not kill it and make sure, they eat enough. They will eat that. There is a topi that is walking blindly in the open plains. We just eaten. Why don't we eat it? They will kill it. So they'll use that chance, whatever it appears, to accumulate a lot of fat. And so, in lean times, they are able to survive using this fat. Unfortunately, it's an animal that is facing a lot of threats. Human-wildlife conflict, habitat loss, and also trafficking and poaching are threats facing this, apex predator. And it's in the brink of almost facing extinction, but efforts to bring it back are there. So it is always nice to see one, even if it's a lone one like this. I really appreciate and thank you for being there so we can enjoy this beautiful predator. June, Jumbo, how many members are in this pride? It is plus minus 9. Like I just said, it has been long since we saw all of them together, but for sure there is 2 males, there is plus minus 4 females, and 3 cubs. So we are talking about something like 9 members, but I haven't seen them for almost a year together, believe me. So until I see them, but I've seen the cubs, 2 females with the cubs. I've seen the males together with 2 females. I've seen 2 females together, 3 females together, but never all of them the whole of this year and part of last year. So it's been tough, but there are about 9 of them. It is total dark, and it's sometimes, it is scary sometimes, when I'm watching at my little monitor and I think, what about if a lion is stalking me from behind? Like I was saying, this is a predator that is facing a lot of threats. Always I appreciate, a chance to see one. And although they look like sometimes they're very lazy, this is an animal that earns its a livelihood in a very tough way, because weak ones are not tolerated either by members of the pride or hyenas. They face stiff competition, and if you're weak, you have no chance. So it's always that you have to be on your tiptoe or top shape to be able to survive in these harsh conditions as a lion or a lioness. Well, it's been nice hosting you in this afternoon safari. I hope you had some fun. On behalf of my directors, my cameraman Bungei, my colleagues all around Africa, from me, all I can tell you is goodbye. And be there bright and early tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Damon, and I come to you live every day from andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I think the most underrated wild animal is the buffalo, and I think many people want to see them because they're a member of the Big Five. But then once it's ticked off the list, it's on to go and look for things like big cats or herds of elephants, when in reality, spending time with a big herd of buffalo is a really amazing experience. It's quite a sensory overload, taking in their smell and the sounds of them moving around you, as well as just the sight of so many big dark bodies walking past.